Hi guys, welcome back. So today I want to do a couple of things. We're going to open up a deck, and I also want to talk to you about a question that I get all the time as a tarot teacher from my students, and that is how to basically get started doing readings. My students ask me, Naha, how can I gain more experience doing readings? How can I get better at it? How can I put my name out a little bit to my community that I'm doing readings? How can I kind of pay my dues? All of these kind of questions. And this means once you've already been practicing on yourself and you've read for your friends, you've read for your family, you've read for your roommates, the people that will let you read for them. But it's not the same thing to read for somebody that you know as it is to read for someone that you don't know. In my opinion, it's far easier to read for somebody that you don't know, because that just means that your brain's not going to be getting in the way. You don't have any knowledge of what this person's life looks like, so you can actually give a much more honest reading in that way, because you're not using logic, you're not using your mind, you're just strictly going off of the messages that you're receiving through the cards. So the answer to all of these questions, what can I do to get more practice, to become a better reader, to put myself out there, to basically gain more confidence in doing readings, the answer is the same, and that is parties. In this day and age, every party wants a reader. It doesn't matter, like if it's a party for a holiday, of course, Halloween parties, readers are always very popular, but it can be anything, a bridal shower, to a holiday party, to a corporate party. But these are the kind of things that you can get hired for as a reader. And where do you find those kind of events? You can find them on Craigslist is a really good way. You can make an ad for yourself saying that you're a reader that's available. You could probably post this on your social media, or you could look there. But I want to give you guys some of my hints and tips and tricks for doing parties and what my experience is to help you guys out a little bit. So at the point where I'm at now in my tarot reading career, I don't do events and parties very much anymore. But when I was getting started, you can bet I definitely did these things a lot. And why it's so good for you to learn and practice is because it's basically like you're doing it's like the speed dating of tarot. So you're just going through people one after another. You're maybe only doing anywhere from a 5 to 10 minute reading. And honestly, in 5 minutes, that's not much time at all. By the time you met that person, introduced yourself, maybe even done a quick little prayer, and then shuffled the cards, your 5 minutes is already up and you haven't even told that person anything. And remember, sometimes when people get a reading, they want to talk. They think that they want to hear what you have to say, but honestly, a lot of people just like to listen to themselves, and so they will try to explain their whole situation, which the reader doesn't need to know any of that. So if you are the person getting the reading and you think you need to tell the reader all the backstory of what's going on, then what you're asking for is advice. You could tell that to any human being and you could get advice. If you are trying to get a message from the universe and a message from your guides, you don't need to fill the reader in on any of the details, if it's a good, legitimate reader. So what I usually do if I go to an event is I, first of all, make sure that I have a plan for what kind of spread I'm going to use, and the simpler the better. I recommend simply using a 3-card spread. And one of the ones that I like to use, and this is the one that we did when we did the Barrow event in Arizona, is that I'll pull 3 cards. The first card will be something for the person to bring forward, to embrace more in their life, or to focus on. The second card is something to let go of, something to release, or maybe even just to put on the back burner or to take their focus away from. And then the third card is sort of like a wild card. It's just a message from the universe. And so I don't specify exactly what that's going to be or apply to, but I just leave it as one final card to see what kind of inspiration I can draw from it to give that person a message. So if you want to use that method, please be free to try that kind of spread. So something to bring forward, something to let go of, and then a final kind of message from the universe. Now, it's funny when you get hired for a party. I hear this so often. I can't tell you how many times I've been told this. The host of the party, who may or may not know that much about tarot, and sometimes they're hiring, they think like, oh, I'm getting a fortune teller for my party, you know? But I've heard this again and again. They'll say, this is a party, so please keep the messages light. Don't say anything bad. Don't tell anybody anything that's going to upset them. And I remember the first couple times I was told this, and I got kind of worried. I was like, God, what do I do if the message, should I take some of the bad cards out of the deck? It actually crossed my mind, like, should I take the devil card and the death card out just so that nobody gets those cards? And then I was like, hell no, I'm not doing that. I've got to trust the cards and trust my gifts and be able to just use the full deck and just be honest with people. And I've never had an experience, and I think that this is true, whether you're at a party or not. Your guides are never going to tell you something you can't handle. It doesn't mean they're going to always say something that you want to hear, but people want honesty. They don't want things sugar-coated. It doesn't matter if they're at a party or not. So what I usually find is that when I am doing this sort of rapid fire where I might do 20 readings in one night, is that not everyone is going to be the most powerful, impactful message for each individual person. Some people are going to be open to it. Some people aren't. Some people are going to be curious. Some people are going to be skeptical. So there's no way that you can go into it thinking you're going to change the life of every single person that you read for. But what I do find is that there's usually one, if I'm lucky, maybe two, maybe even three people that have a really, really powerful connection with me where the message is so important for that person to hear. Oftentimes, they end up in tears, or maybe just, we end up hugging. There's something that person really, really needed to hear to help them move forward. And oftentimes, those are the readings where the message is not necessarily something so wonderful and light, but it's something that's a little more deep or a little more serious. And I just take it as that person is the reason why I was booked for that event. It doesn't matter about the other 18 or 19 people that kind of, found it sort of interesting. It was that one person. And at this point, I will tell them, if they are my one, I will say, you are the reason that I am here tonight. It wasn't about this just being for entertainment. And, people really take something powerful from that. So if you can make that one connection or a couple connections, you'll know. And those of you who have done events, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So another thing that you might want to consider at events is that sometimes people are drinking. Sometimes people are straight out drunk. I did an event one time on New Year's at a bar, and, people are drinking, and they're not necessarily going to be in the best position to be receiving a message from their guides in that moment. So you just kind of have to go roll with the punches. But again, it's going to give you that ability to just see a lot of people quickly and not spend a lot of time worrying about one reading to the next, but just kind of going through it. And also, people at parties are getting that reading for free. They're not paying for it. It's nice sometimes they'll tip you, but their expectations should not be the same as if they are spending $50, $75, $100 to book a reading with you in person. That doesn't mean that they can't still have a powerful experience. But I definitely do not prefer reading for people who are inebriated. Now, another thing that you have to consider that oftentimes is going on at parties is that the environment is not necessarily going to be the most conducive. There might be loud music, there might be people talking right nearby, and you want to try to have some kind of sense of privacy, even if you're in a big room of people, to find a little corner, to find an area where you can kind of be away from everyone else and not have a speaker pointed directly at you, although sometimes it's impossible. And again, it's just part of running the gauntlet that is getting your chops to be a tarot reader. And if you can do it under those kind of circumstances, then just imagine when you are in a really nice setting and you have everything the way you want it and you have some peace, that it will just be that much easier. You know, it's like learning how to drive a car on a really, really crappy stick shift. So put yourself out there, try doing some parties, and you never know, you might end up getting some return clients out of it. Hand out your business cards and see if anybody contacts you. If nothing else, and I don't ever go into parties expecting to gain clients out of it, what I do expect is to gain some practice and some experience, and also to try to open people's minds to what tarot is, and for them to recognize that it isn't just about fortune telling, and it's not a test for me to prove my psychic abilities either. So with that being said, let's get into this. And this is a deck that it looks like I bought on eBay. Who knows how long this has been sitting there? You know, they've been kind of stacking up for a while. Now, this is not a new deck that just came out, and it is not a deck that is unavailable. This is just a deck that I've wanted for a long time, and it's very, very cool. And it's called the Zerner-Farber Tarot deck. So there you can see the cover. And this deck is already opened, but I always try to get a deck that's still in great condition, like new condition, if it is going to be used. So Zerner-Farber, this is actually a couple, a married couple, Amy Zerner, and I believe it's, Monty Farber. So she's the artist, he's the author, and how magical is that? They're totally a tarot team. I think that's really adorable. So let's go ahead and take a look at these cards. Now, this deck was originally the Enchanted Tarot, and I think that deck came out in 1990. Here's the first card, Ace of Wands, and I'll just show you these as we go through. And this original deck, the Enchanted Tarot, had a white border around it and had the title of the card up at the top. So this deck was reissued as the Zerner-Farber Tarot, and they took off the borders, and then they put these little banners down at the bottom. Now, if you look at these closely, what you're going to see, these are so beautiful, is that they're actually collage of tapestries. So you can see this embroidery that's around the side. It's not actually a drawing. It's actually a photograph of tapestries and embroidery. There we go, Two of Pentacles. Isn't that cool? Here's the Nine of Pentacles. And we can see some influence of the traditional images that we know about with the gal in the garden there. And some that maybe are not so traditional. Here's the Six of Coins, Six of Pentacles. Here's the Five of Wands. We know that's a challenge card because it's a 5, right? So we see these guys here. They do seem to be kind of challenging each other. And here we see the Queen of Hearts. So all of this lace down here, and this, it's like appliques and embroidery. Isn't that very cool? And it's almost like how a quilt would be put together. Here's the Six of Cups. There's the children on there that you might be used to seeing on the Six of Cups. You know, the Hermit is an archetype I'm obsessed with. There's the Hermit. What a beautiful one, right? Here's the Devil card. I love the color palette of these cards. And you can go to Amy and Monty's website. I'll make sure and link that down below. I don't know that you can buy this deck still just on its own, but I think that it is sold as part of a set. Oh, I'm just noticing 2 Sun cards. Well, I hope that I'm not missing any other card. I have to say, for how beautiful these images are and how much went into the creation of all of these, I'm a little bit disappointed by the backs. Look at the back of the card. They're kind of boring. in comparison to the front, right? It looks like they put so much energy into this side of the deck that they just kind of gave up on the back, I guess. Let's go ahead and take a look at just a few more here. Here's the Empress. There she is out in her garden, as we expect her to be, right? And here's the King of Swords. And here's the Ten of Swords. So just a really beautiful, dreamy kind of deck. I really, really love it. I do find it interesting that this deck was originally released with borders and that they then, 7 years later, re-released it without borders. And there is actually an art of customizing and modifying tarot decks. And sometimes people actually do remove the borders themselves, and then they will also ink the edges of the cards so that the edges of the cards are not just white. Sometimes people will take a marker and color those in, or even antique the cards. And there's actually, I want to give a little shout out to a really amazing tarot artist that I follow on Instagram. And their name is 282 Tarot. And they are an artist that creates decks, and they also have some recent posts about some deck modifications that they've done, trimming the edges off of, doing the borders, and doing the antiquing on both a Rider-Waite deck and a Wild Unknown deck. So check out 282 Tarot and you can get some creative ideas. So I'm going to go ahead and take this deck and I'm going to shuffle it, and we're going to do a little bit of a reading. Along with this, we have the little booklet that was written by the husband of this duo, Monty. And in here we have a keyword for each one. So I just turned to Two of Wands. It says the keyword is planning. The message is you need to pause and contemplate where you are, where you've been, and where you are going. You are at a crossroads. Make a plan before you take any action. You are in a position of power and can take time out to do so. And then the outcome, it says, you will soon reach a crossroads. You will look back over where you have come from and where you want to go. You may start to map out a strong plan to explore many new directions and may become established, independent, and ready to expand. So what I'm kind of getting here is that the outcome question is sort of like if you're not quite there in the card yet, and the message is if you are there. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look. So I did go ahead and go through this deck just to make sure that there wasn't any other doubles, and I actually found that there was an extra moon card too. So there is an extra sun and an extra moon in this deck. I'm not exactly sure why, and it looks like all the rest of the cards are here. And one thing that makes it really easy to be able to determine that is that each suit has a banner in its own color. So there are certain times as a reader that you might want to separate the cards out by suit or separate your majors out from your minors. There's certain spreads that you might do where you only want to use the minors or the majors, and some of those I teach in my classes. So my students, I'm always having them separate out. We're just going to use court cards. We're just going to use minors or majors, and see all of the pentacles are green, all of the wands are orange, all of the hearts. Oh, I just noticed this. They're not called the suit of cups. They're called the suit of hearts. Took me a second, I guess, to realize that, but those are all pink. The major cards are all lavender, and the swords are all blue. So they have a correspondence with the element there. And it makes it just easier to recognize once you've worked with the deck for a while. So in order to do this reading, I'm going to go ahead and tilt the camera down. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start by shuffling the deck. And usually I shuffle the deck twice, and then I box cut. And then I shuffle one more time. And if I was doing this reading for someone else, I would have them cut the deck, but since I'm the only person here, I'll be cutting it, and I'm going to use my receptive hand, which is my left hand, my non-dominant hand. So I'll cut the deck once, and then we're going to go ahead and do something to bring forward, something to let go of, and a message from the universe. So first of all, something to bring forward. Go ahead and lay these all out now. Okay, so the cards that I have gotten here are the 9 of Hearts or 9 of Cups, the 6 of Wands, and the 9 of Swords. Something to bring forward. What we see in the 9 of Hearts is an expression of wholeness and really a sense of being able to be grateful for all of the things that you have. And to bring this forward means that this is a good time to be able to have more gratitude and really, really be in a place of thinking about that and finding fullness rather than lack or longing. Now, the thing to release, this card is the 6 of Wands. And 6 of Wands is a card of ambition and a card of pushing up to the next level. And what I see with that, and it might not make sense right away, why would you want to release that? Now, here's a trick to not get stuck in when you're doing your readings. As soon as you start thinking, oh, that doesn't make sense, this should be the card that I'm bringing forward, let it be what it was when you set it down. If I turned this card over and I said this was the one to let go of, don't try to think, oh, the cards ended up in the wrong place. So the 6 of Wands, if we're trying to let go of that, I think that what we can interpret that as is right now does not need to be a time for pushing forward, getting to the next thing, but maybe a time to really appreciate where you are, not necessarily feeling like you need to get forward to the next leg of your journey, but just allowing yourself to be where you are and really to fully appreciate the present moment, which I think goes along with this card, which is about bringing forward gratitude and not feeling that there's something that you're missing. And then this final card is a message from the universe. And this is the card of the 9 of Swords. The 9 of Swords is classically a card of anxiety. And the message that I'm going to derive from this card is just a reminder to not be overthinking things. And also to not feel the need to dwell in the mind too much. Sometimes we stay so much in our heads that we just drive ourselves crazy. And whenever I see the 9 of Swords, it's just that reminder that problems and issues are oftentimes just made so much bigger than they really are when we just focus on them and we just stew on them and we don't just let ourselves move forward. So being in the present, appreciating the things that we have, and staying out of the mind, which oftentimes means being active, not just sitting around not doing anything, because idle hands can definitely lead to anxiety. A few great messages today from the Zerner-Farber Tarot. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this little walkthrough of this really, really beautiful deck. Get your hands on one of these before you can't anymore, because I don't think that they're still being printed. But I do believe that they are still available, and you can probably get one for not too much money. If I can find links to buy this deck, I will definitely put them down below. And if you are already doing readings and you just need to get out of your house and do it, put the call out there to the universe that you're ready to do parties. And if you guys know how to manifest things, if you start thinking about it and you put it out there and you maybe mention it to a few people, it's going to happen for you. So use the power of your intention to help you to manifest that. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Go ahead and like this video if you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.